Hello YouTube, this is Goddard Radio Moscow here again with another beer review for you today. Now for this one I'm going to go back to Denmark and we're going to visit the Mikkeller brewery again, obviously one of the famous gypsy breweries that have come out of Denmark. But I've done a number of these reviews before and you'll find the link to those in the video description there, so check those out if you're interested. But today I have for you Kiin Kiin, which is brewed with lemon and lime, and like a number of the Mikkeller beers that they're producing today, it's intended to go with certain types of food. This one is intended to go with Asian food basically. But anyways, as is usual with my beer reviews, I'll just take you through a little bit of a history of the Mikkeller brewery. I've done this before quite a bit, so if you are simply just interested in the tasting of this beer, then feel free to fast forward towards the second part of the video and you will catch that particular segment. But anyway, Mikkeller is a microbrewery or a gypsy brewery founded by home brewers Christian Keller and Mikkel Bjergso, and they're based in Copenhagen over in Denmark. Now Mikkel Bjergso has apparently travelled the world and brewed 200 different types of beer. His first exposure to foreign beer was at a job in a cafe when he was studying to become a teacher. He used to teach physics and maths, but when he was qualified as a teacher he used to stop at a pub on his way home for a beer every day. He must have had some really troublesome classes, and then it was there that he tried the IPA from the Danish brewery Brockhouse, and then at this point he decided that he would save himself a lot of money if he actually brewed his own beer. Now Mikkel and Christian actually drew a hell of a lot of inspiration from the American craft brewing renaissance, and they got their hands on some American craft brewing books and they began brewing in their kitchens at home, and they presented one of their clone beers to their beer club, and this won in a blind tasting. And at this point Christian and Mikkel got really hooked on the idea of brewing beers for themselves. But these kitchen experiments lasted for 2.5 years before the pair began brewing on a larger scale at the Danish microbrewery Orbeck. Now Mikkel's brother Jeppe opened a beer shop in Copenhagen in 2005 and he began to distribute the very early Mikkeller beers. But the big breakthrough for the company on the international beer scene arose with the idea of adding French press coffee to an oatmeal stout, and the resulting Beer Geek breakfast was actually voted the #1 stout in the world on the international ratebeer.com forum. You've probably heard of this one here, but this really kick-started Mikkeller's international success. But after attending the Danish Beer Festival in 2006, the brewery were courted by the American distribution company Shelton Brothers, and this has substantially aided their growth. This Shelton Brothers company import a number of really good beers from Europe over into the United States. But Christian Keller decided to part ways with the company in 2007 despite this success, and this was because he didn't want to produce more than a handful of beers, whereas Mikkel was really into the idea of experimenting with a lot of different ingredients and things like this. And this is the thing, Mikkeller have produced so many beers at this time, but Christian decided to take up a career as the editor of the Danish music magazine Sound Venue. Now the brewery, with it being a gypsy brewery, they don't have their own brewing facility, so you can't go there and visit them for tours, etc. But they actually brew at a variety of host facilities in several different countries. This includes Denmark, Norway, Belgium, Scotland, I think there's some in England as well, and they also brew over in the USA as well. But most of their beers are brewed at the De Proef brewery in Locriste Heifte over in Belgium there. But their home base as such, since they don't have their own brewery, is the Mikkeller bar in Copenhagen, and they have a second bar in Copenhagen also called Mikkeller and Friends, and this is a collaborative beer bar with the To Øl company. The To Øl guys were students of Mikkel's, so it's quite interesting there actually. But they have another bar in San Francisco, and this is the first location they had out with Denmark, but there's also now another one opened up in Bangkok in Thailand. But today Mikkeller export to over 40 different countries, and they've actually brewed well over 600 different varieties of beer, encompassing a massive array of flavours and ingredients. And it's said that the brewery, as I said, they drew inspiration from the American craft brewing industry, and the whole aim of the company is to make beer an alternative to champagne and things like that for drinking with gourmet foods. But the company also have a number of collaboration beers. They've collaborated with brewers such as the Brewdog, the I Hardcore U, I've done a review of this one for you, with Nonju from Norway of course, Three Floyds over in the States, and To Øl of course, one of their other Danish gypsy breweries over there I mentioned. That's another really good brewery. I've reviewed a few of their beers, very good. If you get the chance, give them a try. But the brewery has a blog on the website where you can keep up to date on the current events at the company. Most recently, they signed Keith Shore from Philadelphia as their permanent art director. He'd done a number of things for them before, I believe, but you can check out the brewery website. It's in the video description there, as I usually do with my videos. But another interesting point about this brewery is that Mikkel's brother Jeppe Bjergso, who I mentioned owned that beer shop in Copenhagen in the early days of the brewery, he's actually working with Evil Twin Brewery, who are also a really good brewery. I've got one of their beers that I need to review for you at a later date as well. I really need to get round to doing that one. That's at my parents' house at home. But anyway, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little look at the bottle and cap of this one here. It's got quite a nice design on it here. It's got a nice sort of rocky thing to it here, and you can see there's a little, I think that's meant to be a starfish. Looks as if it's dried out a little bit actually, but I don't know. But it's quite cool. You can see it's going for that sort of orient kind of rocky feel that you see in the things, and you can see it has this little thing on the top here, Kiin Kiin, and it says, of course, brewed with lemon and lime, and it says brewed by Mikkeller, flavoured by Ida, and he owns a Thai eatery, if you like, in Copenhagen apparently. But basically Mikkeller brew this beer and he flavours it, and like I say, the idea is that this goes with Thai food. And this one's a 5% fruit beer, it was described as on a lot of the beer forums. I wasn't sure exactly whether it's meant to just be a 5% fruit vegetable beer, but I wasn't sure how to describe this one in the review, so I had to look it up. But this one should be quite interesting. But as is usual, here's the bottle cap as well. It's just a plain one from Mikkeller this time. I wish they would get their own bottle caps, but I think that's hard just with the whole gypsy brewing thing, is to distribute all these to all their breweries where they're brewing the beer. But as with a number of the Mikkeller beers as well, it's brewed at the De Prof brewery in Locristi Hyftel over in Belgium. And there's also actually another point with this one, is there's the dim sum beer, and this is another one that's brewed just with the idea of eating it with Asian food. But let's get this guy out and get on with the tasting. I'll also review dim sum for you at a later date as well. Nice bit of smoke on the opening there as I opened this one up here, but let's get this guy poured and get on with the tasting here. As I say, really looking forward to giving this one a little try, see what it's like. This one's going to be very, very light if it's what I think it's going to be. I'm pretty sure it'll be a nice sort of very, very light beer if it's going with Asian food. But yeah, let's set this guy back down. There we go. So as you can see, really, really bright, kind of nice orangey golden colour there. That's quite hazy, I can't see through that there. You've got just under a finger of nice kind of fluffy white head there. I think that's going to fade away though, like sort of a lager head if you like on this one. I think it will kind of fade away just over the course of drinking this beer, but really, really nice one. In terms, there's quite a bit of carbonation actually visible in this one. A lot of nice little bubbles kind of flying up from the bottom there. Really, really nice looking beer, I have to say. But yeah, in terms of the aroma with this one, it's very, very sweet smelling, I would say. It smells, you can actually get the idea with this one, you can smell the sort of lemon grassy type things in it. But yeah, it's mainly sort of grassy aromas you're getting with it, with that kind of lemon in there as well, as you would expect with it being brewed with sort of lemon and lime. But yeah, sort of lemony, citrusy notes there. The lime you can pick up just a little bit as well. But there's a good bit of I think there's a good bit of floral character to this one as well. But I think there's a good bit of light yeast and grains in there too. There is that kind of nice element to it. So yeah, I'd say sort of lemon and lime as you would expect. A nice kind of grassy aroma in the background there, and you've got a bit of floral character there too. But some nice light grains and yeast as well. I think this one might actually be more like a lager than this one, than a fruit vegetable beer, but we'll see, we'll give it a taste. Very, very unusual sort of mouthfeel to this one when you take it in. It's a very, very mild flavour actually. Very, very mild flavour, which it's quite unusual for Mikkeller actually to have a very mild flavour. But yeah, you're getting a kind of sort of lemon flavour up front, very kind of quite sweet, and there's a good bit of grassiness to that as well. And there's a sort of, I think there's maybe just a little bit of a sweet malt in the middle, but it's a very, very mild flavoured beer. It's quite hard to pick out actually. Yeah, comes in with just a little bit of sweetness, lemon and lime, but it's mainly that sort of grassy underlining you get with it. And in the back of the mouth, in the aftertaste a little bit, you're getting some sort of biscuity, bready malt with it as well. Maybe just a little hint of yeast too. But it's a very, very light, very, very mild flavoured beer. Very, very mild. As I say, unusual for Mikkeller to have one that is such a light touch, if you like, I would say. It's quite interesting. But yeah, on the finish, you're getting the sort of graininess kind of coming out on the finish there. There's a bit of hoppy bitterness at the end actually as well. You're getting the lemon and grassy elements kind of coming out on the end as well, but I think there's a nice sort of grassy element going all the way through this one. As I say, it's a very, very mild flavour, which I'm kind of a bit lost with when it comes to Mikkeller. You're used to these beers being absolutely blasted with flavour, but it's a really very mild one. It actually reminds me a little bit of Chang beer, but it's a lot. It doesn't quite have the corniness and the or ricey flavours that Chang does. Yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel, very light bodied, actually a very, very wet flavoured beer I would say, but it's got quite an active carbonation as I said at the start of the tasting. But yeah, it's quite refreshing, very, very light, actually a little bit watery I would say, but it's very, very drinkable. And in honesty, I can see how this would go with Asian food. It would complement it very well. I mean, Chang beer does that as well. You can see how this would complement very, very well with Asian food, and it's a Thai restaurant that this particular beer, the Yi guy who flavoured this beer owns a Thai restaurant in Copenhagen, as I said, and I can see how this would go very, very well with Thai food. It's quite a nice one, but as I say, it's unusual for Mikkeller to have such a mild beer, so if you're expecting a really sort of citrusy blast with this one, it's definitely not that. It's a very, very mild one, and I have to say they've done quite well to make something that can complement the Asian food quite well like that. I'll need to see if I can get another one of these and actually try it with Asian food, but yeah, I would say with this one, it's done its job. But in terms of if you're wanting a really, really flavourful beer from Mikkeller, go for something else before this. Definitely try this one with the Asian food and you'll see exactly what they're going for here. I was just wanting to focus on the taste of the beer itself, but as I say, very interesting in the fact that it's so light and it's a really grassy thing, and I've not actually had something from Mikkeller that is quite so grassy. But yeah, this is an interesting one. I mean, definitely give it a try, but as I say, if you're expecting a real flavour blast from this one definitely isn't that, with that, which is, as I say, it's quite unusual for Mikkeller. But anyway, I hope this beer review's been informative for you and you've enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll be back with I've got a load more beer reviews to do for you, but as usual, please like, subscribe, share. Let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on this beer as well. Always interesting to hear those if you've tried it. But thanks again for watching. You've been watching Goddard Radio Moscow. Check out my other Mikkeller reviews and I will be back with more in the near future. But thanks again for watching. This is Goddard Radio Moscow and I'll catch you soon. Cheers.